Good day. My name is Dr. Marwan Jalambo and I am assistant professor specializing in nutrition. Today we will continue with chapter 2 which lays the foundation for all practical nutrition, the basis of healthy diet. Over the next minutes, we will be covering everything from the scientific standards for nutrient intake and the major food groups to United States dietary guidelines and how to read the food labels you see in the grocery stores. This chapter provides how to for building a healthy eating pattern. What is a nutrient requirements? So it's formally defined as the smallest amount of a nutrient that maintains a defined level of nutritional health. This is a minimum amount is what's needed to prevent a specific deficiency disease like scurvy from lack of vitamin C or to properly saturate our body's cells with that nutrient. So it's not a single number of everyone. So a person needs are influenced by many factors, including their lifestyle, their age, sex, general health status, and even medication they might be taking. So our bodies are smart. Many nutrients are stored in the liver, body fat, muscles, and bones. So having these optimal stores is crucial as it allows the body to withdraw nutrients when our intake is low, which can delay or prevent the signs and symptoms of deficiency. So, scientists have taken this concept, requirements, and developed a comprehensive set of standards that we can use a reference. These are known as dietary reference intake or DRI. So, dietary reference intake or DRI are the cornerstone of modern nutritional science. They are a set of energy and nutrient intake standards that all nutrition experts use when making dietary recommendations. These standards are developed by the Food and Nutrition Board, which is part of National Academy of Medicine. As you can see from this diagram, from this figure or image, the dietary reference intake are actually as the umbrella, an umbrella term for the six different sets of values which we will explore individually. The EAR, EAR, the double ER, the RDA, the AI, the UL, and AMDR. So let's begin with the foundation of the dietary reference intake, the EAR. EAR means estimated average requirements. EAR is a statistical concept. It's the amount of nutrients that is estimated to meet the needs of 50% or half of the healthy people in a specific life stage and sex groups. As you see in this bell curve, the ear is the beak of the curve, the average. To set ear, scientists must identify physiological markers, which is a measurable substance in the body that reflects the proper function. For example, to set the ear for vitamin C, they measure the amount of vitamin in certain white blood cells. When those cells are saturated, it's a sign of the body has an optimal supply. When ear is not goal for individuals, its value used to assess nutritional adequacy of population and more importantly to build our next standard. While the ear estimated average requirements relate to nutrients. So our next standard is the estimated energy requirements, double ER, relates to our overall energy needs or calories. So double ER or estimated energy requirements is a different, it's the average daily energy intake, meaning calories, that is estimated to meet the need of healthy person who is maintaining their weight. Unlike nutrient standard, we will see the double ER or estimated energy requirements is highly individualized. The calculation takes into account a person's physical activity level, height, weight, sex, and age. A crucial point here is that the double ER doesn't include margin of safety. There's no margin of safety. This is logical. If we added a margin of safety to everyone's calories need, it would lead to widespread weight gain. So the double ER is simply estimate of your energy balance point. Now, let's go back to nutrients. If the ear only cover 50% of the people, what standard should we as individuals aim for? The standard is the RDA. RDA means recommended dietary allowances. RDA is the standards of recommended daily intakes for several nutrients. This is the goal for individuals. The RDA is set to meet the nutrients need of nearly all healthy individuals, 97% to 98% in a particular life stage and sex group. For example, the adult ear for vitamin C for females is 60 milligram from vitamin C, but the RDA is set higher at 75 milligram. That is 15 milligram is the margin safety. So again, the RDA is set to meet the nutrient need nearly healthy 97 to 98% in a particular life stage and sex group. In this diagram shows the RDA is not the average, it's set without the tail of the end of this bell curve. How is it set? Scientists first determine the ear, the 50% mark, and then they added margin of safety. This additional amount allows for individual variations in nutrients need and help maintain stores of the nutrient in our tissue. But what happens when there isn't enough scientific evidence to even set an ear? We can't just guess. In that case, scientists set an AI, adequate intake. AI, not artificial intelligence. It is adequate intake. So adequate intake or AI set for nutrients when there is not enough scientific information available to determine an ear and therefore an RDA. To set it, scientists record the diet of a group of healthy people and estimate their average daily intake of the nutrient. If that group of people shows no evidence of a deficiency disorder, the researchers assume that this typical intake must be adequate, and they use that value as the AI, the adequate intake. Dietitian or nutritionist use AI along with RDA as a nutrient intake goal in planning diets. So the next table shows some of the key nutrients that are currently assigned adequate intake AI instead of RDA. As you can see from this table, several key vitamins like biotin, vitamin K, choline are in this list. For the minerals, the column number 2, this includes sodium, potassium, and fluoride. And importantly, dietary fiber is also assigned an adequate intake or AI. As more scientific evidence becomes available, it's possible for the nutrient to move from having an AI to having a more precise RDA. So far, we have discussed a minimum and goals of RDA and adequate intake. Now we must discuss the maximum or the safety limits. This is the UL, means upper limit, or tolerable upper intake level. So UL is the highest average daily amounts of a nutrient that is unlikely to harm most people when consumed daily. This is not a recommended amount or aim for. It is a ceiling as you if your intake is between the RDA and the UL upper limit, you are in a safe and adequate range. But if your intake is consistently above the UL, your risk of toxicity disorder increase. For most people, it's very difficult to exceed the UL or the upper limit from a food alone you eat, because the text use the example of vitamin C. Its a UL is 2000 milligram per day. I think you should eat 24 oranges or 20 or 30 cups of broccoli to get that much. However, it's very easy to exceed the UL or the upper limit by taking high dose of dietary supplements. Finally, there is one more dietary reference intake that helps us balance our overall diet. This is the AMDR, which deals with macronutrient. So acceptable macronutrient distribution ranges, this is the abbreviation of AMDR. Acceptable macronutrient distribution range is the range of carbohydrate, of the fat, range of protein, these macronutrients intake as a percentage of the total calories. Following these ranges serves three main purposes. Number one, they provide adequate amount of vitamins and minerals. Number two, they may reduce risk of developing certain diet-related chronic diseases like heart diseases, type 2 diabetes, mellitus. Number three, they allow people to determine if their diet has a healthful balance of macronutrient. In the next tables, the adult AMDR or acceptable macronutrient distribution range of carbohydrate is 45 to 65% of calories. For fats, 20 to 35%, and protein from 10 to 35%. So the next table provides a great summary of all dietary reference intake we have just discussed. In this table is an excellent reference. It puts the dietary reference intake side by side. You can see the ear at the top of this table as the 50% amount, the RDA as 97 to 98% amount, which is the goal for individuals. The AI is used when the RDA cannot be determined. The UL is the highest average daily intake that's unlikely to cause harm, and using the vitamin C example for adults 19 to 50 years, you can clearly see the ear for female is 75 milligram, while the RDA is 90 milligrams. While in females, the ear is 60 milligram and the RDA is 75 milligram. And for the adults, the UL upper limit is 2000 milligram daily. So how we use all these numbers in a real world? Applying a nutrient standard. How are these standards applied? Registered dietitian, nutritionist, and healthcare professionals use them to plan a nutritious diet for groups and to evaluate the nutritional adequacy of the population diet. For an individuals, we use the RDA or AI as the target goal. We can also assess the risk. If a person diet consistently supplies less than the year, they may be at risk of nutrient deficiency. If their intake consistently above the upper limit, they are at risk of toxicity. So these standards also have major commercial applications because pharmaceutical companies refer to dietary reference intakes when developing infants formula and special formulas for people who can't eat regular foods, such as a person in coma receiving tube feeding. Now, as you can see, dietary reference intake are complex lists for numbers. They are not very useful for the average person trying to decide what to eat for lunch. Most people need practical suggestions. This is where food groups come in. So, a dietary guidance system, food guide, is what translates those complex dietary reference intake into basic food-based dietary recommendation for the average consumer. To create food guide, nutrition experts first classify food into major food groups based on their natural origins and their key nutrients. The USDA defines the major food groups as grain, dairy, fruits, vegetables, protein rich foods. Some guides also include oils. A key concept here is variety. In this figure, as you see, the nutritional content within a group can vary widely. 100 gram of an apple and 100 gram the same of an orange have about the same calories, but the orange supplies 60 milligrams of vitamin C, while the apple only supplies 4 milligram. This is why all guides recommend eating variety of food from each group. So let's look at each these food groups starting with the grains. The grain group includes any products made from wheat, rice, oats, corn, barley, and other cereal grains. This includes things like pasta, bread, and flour. Their primary macronutrient are carbohydrate as starch and protein. In, in most of the countries, refined grain products are often good source of vitamin and minerals because they have undergone enrichment or fortification. It's vital to know the difference. Enrichment is the replacement of some nutrient that were lost during processing. A grain enrichment specifically adds back iron and the B vitamin, like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and folic acid to refined products like white flour. So fortification is the addition of a nutrient to any food boost its nutritional value, whether they were originally present or not. So a classic example is adding vitamin A and vitamin D to the milk. In this table shows us what counts as the equivalent. For example, one regular slice of bread, one cup of ready-to-eat cereals, or half cup of cooked rice all count as 1 ounce equivalent or 30 grams from the grain groups. Now, let's talk about the difference between the refined grains and whole grains. Dietary guides strongly recommended choosing food made with whole grains instead of refined grains. What is the whole grain? According to USDA, it's a grain that contains the entire grain kernel, all three parts, the bran, the germ, and endosperm. Example include whole wheat, oatmeal, whole grain cornmeal, and brown rice. The benefit is that compared to refined grains products, whole grain naturally contain more fiber and more micronutrients that are not replaced during the enrichment process. So next, let's move to the dairy group. The dairy group includes cow's milk and products made from cow's milk that retain their calcium content. This is a key qualifier. It's include things like yogurt and hard cheeses. Dairy foods are excellent source of protein, phosphorus, and riboflavin. And as we mentioned, most milk is fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D. Plant-based beverages like soy or almond milk can be substitutes, but only if they are fortified with calcium and other micronutrients to match the profile of cow's milk. So, what is not in this group? Things like cream cheese and butter, even though they are dairy products. The USDA excludes them from this group because they have little or no calcium and are high in solid foods. So, cream, cheese, or cream and butters, all little or no amount of calcium and high in solid fats. In this table shows the equivalent. For example, 1 cup of low-fat milk, 1 cup of yogurt, or 1.5 ounce of natural cheese like cheddar cheese all count as 1 cup equivalent from the dairy groups. So we now go to the next group, the protein group food. The protein food group is very diverse. It's include beef, fish, liver, poultry, beans, eggs, nuts, and seeds. Besides protein, these foods are also rich sources of micronutrients, especially iron, zinc, and B vitamin. An important concept here is the bioavailability. The body generally absorbs minerals like iron and zinc more easily from animal food than from plant foods. This group is also characterized by fat content. For example, the white meat of turkey or chicken is a very lean protein. Ground beef with 15% fat or less is lean protein. And food like sausage, bacon, and hot dogs are high fat protein food. So in this table shows our equivalent: 1 ounce of cooked lean beef, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, or a fourth of the cup of cooked bean, all count as 1 ounce equivalent. Let us to talk about the next group, the fruit groups. The fruits group includes fresh fruits or dried or frozen and canned fruits, as well as 100% fruit juice. Most fruits are low in fat and are excellent source of phytochemicals and potassium, vitamin C, and folate. Importantly, whole or cut cup fruit is also good source of fibers. A key recommendation of this group is that the majority of your choices should be whole or cut up fruits, not juice. Why? Because whole fruits are more nutrient dense. They contain more dietary fibers and high no added sugars compared to the most juices. So as you see in this table, the fruit equivalents, 1 cup equivalent could be 1 small apple, 1 large orange, 8 large strawberries, or 1 cup of 100% fruit juice. Closely related to fruits, so let's talk about the vegetable groups. The vegetable groups is also diverse, including fresh, cooked, canned, frozen, and 100% vegetable juice. This group is often broken down into subcategories such as dark green, orange, and starchy vegetables. Vegetables are typically low in fats and are rich sources of potassium, vitamin A, vitamin C, folate, fiber, and phytochemicals. An interesting point is the dried beans and peas, like black beans or lentils. Don't forget lentils. You know why I talk about lentils. So have a dual identity. They can be counted in either the vegetable groups or the protein food groups. But you must count them in only one. A person on a plant-based diet, for example, would likely count them as protein food. In this table, the vegetable equivalents: 1 cup of raw cooked vegetables, 1 cup of vegetable juice, or 2 cups of raw leafy greens like spinach, all counts as 1 cup equivalent. So now finally, let's discuss fats, which are broken into 2 categories: oils and solid fats. First, oils. These includes fats that are liquid at room temperature, like canola, corn, and olive oil. This category also include spreadable food made from vegetable oils, like mayonnaise and tube margarine. Oils are often good source of vitamin E and essentially fatty acids. According to USDA, oils are not separate food groups, but they are recognized as contributing important nutrients, and their consumption is recommended. Now, the solid fats, these are fats that are fairly hard at room temperature, such as beef fat, such as butter, such as stick margarine. This group also includes coconut oil, even though it's liquid in a warm kitchen, or a worm or at room temperature, liquid at room temperature. Its chemical structure makes it a solid fats. High consumption of solid fats has been associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Now that we understand the data reference intake and the food groups, let's see how they are combined into national recommendation, and this bring us to United States dietary guidelines, and we will talk about it in the next part in this chapter in the next lecture. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next, the part 2 in the same chapter. Goodbye.